Greetings of the day, dear students. Welcome back to your English class. In today's class, we are going to do lesson 3 from our Beehive. The title of the lesson is The Little Girl, written by Katherine Mansfield. Katherine Mansfield was born on 14th October 1988. She was a prominent short story writer who was born and brought up in colonial New Zealand and wrote under the pen name of Katherine Mansfield. At the age of 19, Mansfield left New Zealand and settled in UK. She published only one story and one poem during her first 15 months in UK. She died on 9th January 1923. She was a prolific writer in the final years of her life, but much of her work remained unpublished till her death. In this story, The Little Girl, Katherine talks about how children have natural attachment with their parents. They always desire to receive their love and affection. The rude behavior of parents only develops a deep sense of separation among the children. This is the story of Kezia, the little girl. Kezia is the main character of the story. Her father is a very successful businessman, but for the little girl, he is a figure to be feared and avoided. Every morning before going to the job, he gives a casual kiss to the little girl and she responds with "Goodbye, father." In the evening, when Kezia's father would come home, she would hear his loud voice calling for tea. Kezia's mother would ask Kezia to be a good girl to take off father's shoes. When she would take off his shoes, he would ask if she had been a good girl that day. But she was so terrified of him that she would stutter due to fear. She, in fact, even tried to speak, but she would hesitate, and Kezia's father would become angry at her stuttering like this while talking. On a Sunday afternoon, grandmother asked Kezia to have a nice talk with father and mother. But Kezia always found mother reading and father snoring. So she waited for father to wake up. And she kept staring at father. When he actually woke up, he asked Kezia not to stare because she looked like an owl. One day, Kezia's grandmother told her that her father's birthday was next week. She suggested Kezia to make him a pincushion of yellow silk. So Kezia made a pincushion for her father. She needed something to stuff the pincushion. So she started searching for something to be stuffed in the pincushion. As she went in her parents' room, she saw some sheets lying next to the bed on a table. So she gathered the sheets, cut them into pieces, and stuffed those pieces into the pincushion. Kezia didn't know that these papers belonged to her father. They had an important speech which he was to deliver. That night there was a hue and cry in the house. Father's great speech for the Port Authority had been lost. Rooms were searched. Mother went to Kezia's room and asked her about those papers. Kezia didn't tell a lie. She told her that she had torn those papers to fill in the pincushion. Mother couldn't believe that. She asked Kezia to come to the drawing room immediately. Father was pacing to and fro in the drawing room in anger. Kezia became frightened. He asked Kezia if she had torn the papers. She was so scared that she whispered, "No." Then father asked mother to go to Kezia's room and fetch those torn papers. Kezia was sent to her room. After a while, father came to her room and asked Kezia to hold out her hands. He beat her on her hands, and he said that he did so to teach her not to touch anything that didn't belong to her. Hours later, her grandmother had wrapped Kezia in a shawl. She clung to her, still sobbing. And she had only one question: what did God make fathers for? She was completely heartbroken. The McDonalds lived next to Kezia's house. They had 5 children, and their father, Mr. McDonald, always played with the children. When Kezia looked at Mr. McDonald playing with his children, she thought that there were different type of fathers. One day, Kezia's mother fell ill. She had to be hospitalized. Kezia's grandmother was with her, and Kezia was all alone with Alice, their cook. While Alice was putting Kezia to bed, she asked Alice what would happen if she had a nightmare. But Alice asked her to sleep, and she also warned her not to scream and wake up her poor father. But Kezia had a nightmare. She saw a butcher with a knife and a rope. He came near Kezia, but she couldn't move. She screamed and finally woke up. Kezia found her father standing next to her bed. He asked her affectionately what was the matter. After hearing that she had a nightmare, he took Kezia with him in his room. Kezia's father lay down beside her, and Kezia crept close to him. She was still a little scared because of the nightmare. He asked Kezia to rub her feet against his legs to get them warm. While Kezia lay next to her father, she thought that father worked day and night and got too tired to be a Mr. McDonald, and there was nobody to take care of father as he took care of everybody else. And she had even torn up his speech papers. She stirred in the bed, thinking about all these things. Father asked Kezia what was the matter. Kezia simply replied that she could hear her father's big heart beating. This story teaches us an important lesson. It is that love and affection are very important to inculcate values in children. Children have sensitive minds. These are like a clean slate on which good values of life can be written permanently. Kezia in The Little Girl proves the fact that love and affection can win the heart, but cruelty and harshness distance children from their parents. Love, affection, and respect is required by both parents as well as children. So, that will be all for today's class. Until we meet again, stay healthy, stay safe, and keep learning.